questions now so we can release them to their deadline. And yeah, I will read the question. That's Joseph from Midval Citizens. When will load shedding recommence in Gauteng, and why the coyness about issuing a schedule? Next question. I shall leave that to you, Jan. Next question comes from Andre Colin, Crisis 24. Yesterday's statement noted vandalism, cable theft, etc. as issues impacting supply in Gauteng. Sabotage has previously been noted in the media. Are there any indications that attacks on infrastructure are orchestrated? Jan, please, do you want to handle those? Those two, thank you.
Thank you, Sigunati. I didn't get the first one, unfortunately, but on the second one, the issue on vandalism, we have had a breakdown. We had two transmission towers, 275 kV, that actually came down 2 days ago here in the Cleveland area because of vandalism. What is happening, these steel towers, they are, attached by a lot of members. So somehow these innovative colleagues that we have in the country, some of them, fortunately, decide, that is adequate, first of all, to make beds or other type of furniture, and then secondly, to sell it for some money. So when you take a number of these members out of the structure, you weakens it at a certain point, and when you have a strong wind or whatever the case may be, then you have the towers, specifically the one tower coming down, and if you have another tower that also having a few missing members, then you do collapse, the towers. So it is a problem that we are facing. Now, the question that has been asked a number of times, and I'd like to reiterate it today again, do we have any evidence of sabotage that has happened over the last week in terms of some of the breakdowns? Now, I can, without any hesitation, say no. There is no evidence that we have that there was sabotage. However, we have lost units because of, I believe, pure negligence, that some of our colleagues, for some reason, decided not to attend to, say, alarms and indications that a unit is at risk for whatever reason. And yes, so I believe more negligence than the issue of sabotage. Thank you. Sorry, Sigunati, I didn't get the first question. What was that, please?
Jan, the question was, when will load reduction begin again in Gauteng, and why the coyness about issuing a schedule for load reduction? Can we, I'm not sure if Monde is with us on the line here to assist us with that question.
If Monde is not connected, I will voice a response.
Monde, are you able to assist us?
Yeah, let me help with that one, Sigunati. The difference between load shedding and load reduction is when we load shed, it means that the demand, the capacity that we have available doesn't match, the demand of the country, and that capacity, usually we have a safety margin in there. So if you cannot just purely look at the capacity versus the demand. You've got to take the capacity and then you've got to subtract a certain safety factor. So when the capacity minus the safety factor is not in equilibrium with the demand, we have to, and obviously including now your emergencies. If we do not have then sufficient capacity, that's when we implement load shedding. Load reduction, on the other hand, is to protect our assets. This is where you have designed a network, maybe let's say in some town, and the design of that line is based on what we believe the demand in that area will be. And there's usually quite a handsome safety margin included in there. However, when we then find that people, exceed their demand that they have, that they declare, and that what they pay for, as well as illegal connections, then what we find is that we have overloading of the system. And that's when we are forced to implement load reduction. So this is a difference between the load shedding and the load reduction. Now, it's also my understanding that we do communicate when it is necessary to implement load reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. I have a few hands. Before I go back to the chat, please. I don't see any hands being raised, so I'll go back to the chat. The next question is about City of Johannesburg. And that's the municipality for Monday, but I don't see him on the line. We'll skip that and come back to it. Siphelele Dludla from Business Report. This question is, what is the capacity of Eskom's total breakdowns and that of planned maintenance as we currently speak? Philip, are you able to assist us with that, please?
Yes, I can. So in terms of unplanned, that is off at the moment, it's 13,753. And our planned, it's 4,855 megawatts. Thanks.
Thank you, Philip. I see no further hands, colleagues, so I will go again back to the chat. Okay, there is a hand raised. Please speak up, colleague. I can't read your name at this point.
Hello, this is Simnigiwe Hlachanini from The Citizen. My question is to Eskom with regards to the city of Joburg. That was my question there on the chat. I would like to know how far Eskom is in finalizing that deal with the city of Johannesburg, where the city is going to take over some of its customers in townships such as Soweto, Orange Farm, etc. And that deal also supposedly includes infrastructure handover that Eskom is going to give to the city. So how far is that?
Thank you, Simnigiwe. Monde, please, can you assist us with a response to the question on City of Johannesburg? Chris, do you know if Monde is on the line, please?
No, he's not on the line, Sikunati. Perhaps I can answer that question.
Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, we are in negotiation with the city of Johannesburg, City Power. However, I'd like to make one thing very clear. This is not a handover. The process that we're talking about, this is a commercial process. The City Power believes that they can, with the customers and the areas that they would like to negotiate to, and on a commercial basis to take over, they believe that they, with whatever means they have, is they will be able to do the necessary revenue management and to give the customer service that is required by the customers. However, I would like to make it very clear. So we're in that negotiation. It's ongoing. It's a bit of a delay now with the elections that is ongoing, which obviously makes sense. We will continue with these negotiations as soon as this process of the elections are over. But I'd like to emphasize again, this is a commercial transaction. It is not just here, take over, we hand over. It is unfortunately not that case. Thank you.
Jan, thank you for that response. The next question comes from Michael Salzwede. Please do pardon me if I got your name wrong. I apologize. The question is, are all our neighbors' accounts up to date? And if not, why has their connection not been terminated to ensure paying customers in South Africa have access to electricity? By neighbors, Michael actually does mean the countries outside of our borders. Can you help with that question, please, Sekgomotso? Colleagues, again, I do not seem to have Sekhumoto on the line. Jan, do you want to handle that as well, please?
Yes, I can. I would like my colleagues now to come in as well. I can again state that all of our neighboring countries are paying their current accounts. Now, the only challenge that we do have, and that is a process that is in mediation at this point in time, is with EDM, where EDM owes us, we believe, some outstanding debt. EDM believe that they have valid reasons why that has not been paid. So that is in a mediation, but the current account has been paid. ZISA is paying the account, ZESCO is paying the account, Botswana is paying the account, Lesotho is paying the account, NamPower is paying the account. So we do not have any bad debt, outstanding accounts and outstanding debt at this point in time with our neighboring countries. Thank you.
Jan, please explain EDM.
We are getting power from Cahora Bassa. Now, Cahora Bassa is HEB. Now, they are feeding into South Africa, but then there's a tripartite agreement that from what is fed in is also then allocated to EDM. Now, a few years ago, we as Eskom believed that EDM's offtake was more than what they were entitled for and what they paid us for. EDM on their side believe that they have the facts in place to justify why they have used more of the capacity that was shipped or transferred to South Africa. So this is what the case is all about. I'm not going to disclose any of the details because that may jeopardize the case on both sides. So, but basically this is what has happened. Thanks.
That's the Electricity Company of Mozambique, am I correct?
Yes, yeah,
Electricity de Mozambique.
Yeah.
Thank you. I next have Mariam Isa from Finwick. Mariam. Next, after him, I've got Anton Eberhard, the professor from UCT. I'll take those two questions and we will then go to the next lot. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Sikonathi. I'm sorry I came in late so this question may have been asked already. But I was just wondering, what will the impact of the steam generator replacement project at Coburg next year have on our generation outlook? I imagine a big chunk of capacity needs to come offline. And it is a very complicated project, and wondering how much is going to come offline and how much is going to be offline. What is the outlook for that, please?
Thanks, Marianne. Anton Eberhard, please, will you go ahead? Simnikiwe, I see your hand again. I don't know if that's a new question. If so, that will be, if you allow me, your last question so we can give the other colleagues a chance. Anton Eberhard?
Yeah, thanks, Sikonathi. It's Anton Eberhard from the Power Futures Lab at UCT. Question directed to Jan. I think anyone who knows the hours that Jan keeps, what time he gets up every morning, how long his day is at Eskom, would question his commitment to turning around the utility. But Jan, you've been there a number of years now, and we still haven't seen the performance of the power station stabilized. So what are the key constraints in rebuilding capabilities and skills within Eskom? In which respects are you still constrained in doing what you need to do to stabilize the situation there? Thank you.
Thanks, Anton. Jan, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Sikonathi. Mariam, the first steam generator replacement is planned for very early in January next year. So that means that we're going to take off unit number 2 for a period of close to 160 days. So to be exact, 155 days. So it is 920 megawatts, as I say. So together with the steam generator replacement, we will also then do normal maintenance on the unit. And it is the first of its kind. So we are nervous. We're confident, but we are nervous. And I must admit, we haven't covered ourselves in any glory. If you take the last number of outages at Koeberg, the last one, to be precise, we planned it for 110 days and it took us 165 days, or 168 days. However, you've got to give you've got to be honest as well. 30 days of that is because we had to take the unit down 30 days earlier because of a leak within the steam generator tubes. So it obviously, Marion, has a huge impact on the production plan of generation, because that means for a period of 155 days, 920 megawatts will not be available. So it is making us nervous. So, but Philip can perhaps come in. We are planning around that, and what we need to make sure, and absolutely sure, is that replacement, the whole outage and the replacement of the three steam generators for unit number 2 is a successful project, because it doesn't help you bring it back and then you have problems afterwards. So as I would like to repeat it, we are nervous. However, we're confident that we'll be able to execute it successfully. I've requested Framatome, the French main contractor, our main contractor that will assist us with the steam generator, to come to South Africa. So they are here on Tuesday, this next week, and we will have then intense discussions and negotiations. So, but we're confident. But 920 megawatts, Marion, you're right. It is quite a lot that we are taking off for a period more than 5 months. So, Philip, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add, perhaps, please, before I address the question asked by Professor Eberhard.
Jan, no, I think you are correct in summing it up by saying we are nervous about it. So it's huge megawatts, and it does impact the system. Koeberg is also much more reliable than most of the coal-fired power stations. So when it is off, yes, we do get nervous, but we have made plans around it. The risk, however, will be higher during the period. Thanks.
Professor Eberhard, yeah, I've been asking myself this question quite often when I'm awake at night, but no, let's put that aside. You've asked me a very direct question. What are the issues that is prohibiting us to move positively forward? I believe there are a number of these aspects. And I believe number one is the lack of additional capacity in the country. We've been asking, and I personally have been asking now for 2 years. And the first time that I've made it very public was when I had to face the president of the country, deputy president, the minister of DPE, and DMRE, on the 11th of December 2019, after we had stage 6 load shedding. And I made it very clear that we need additional capacity as soon as possible. And the reason from an Eskom point of view is we have 80 units of the coal-fired power plant, 80 units in the power stations, and we need to maintain those. Now, we've implemented reliability maintenance. However, you can take maybe 5, maybe 7 at a time. So we have done 7 of these units on the reliability maintenance, and currently we're busy with 5. So, but we do not have the luxury at this point in time to really plan how we're going to take all these units offline for an extended period to do all the maintenance that is required by the unit itself, because it's like a car. You have to do maintenance, and that's exactly what we need to do. So we have been running these units relatively hard because of the availability that is not the way it's supposed to be. So we need additional capacity that we can take the units off and maintain them properly. We do not have the luxury at this point in time because the demand of the country is of such a nature, and together with our breakdowns, that we cannot always do that. And, Diraj Bima, my colleague within production, general manager, fortunately he hasn't got any hair anymore, because otherwise he will just take it out, because it's very difficult for him to plan going forward with the system that is unreliable and constrained as we have it now. So I believe that's one of the big issues. I believe a second issue is we've lost a lot of skills, lots of experience over the decade or so out of Eskom. People that really been experienced, they've been on the floor, on the shop floor, they worked themselves up, and they've been very experienced. So we've lost a lot of those skills. We've appointed new colleagues with lots of potential, but the only way that you get experience is by working. So we've also neglected the last number of years technical training. We also just embarked now on what we call operational excellence. So for me, there are three issues. One is we have units that we were running extremely hard, so the utilization has been really high. We do, and so it has taken its toll, make no mistake. Secondly, we need additional capacity in order for us to take these units off and maintain them adequately and properly and for the time that it's required. And I believe thirdly, and Philip is doing a lot of work on that now, is to look at the people side of the business on how do we ensure that we get the experience back in the organization, and that we're going to drive now to get some of the experience back into the organization. And for them, to assist the young potential that we have to get them trained and experienced more quicker. So Professor Eberhard, in a nutshell, those are three of the big challenges that we are facing at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. I have Simnikiwe's hand, and that would be the last question, voice question in this session, colleagues. And I will read the last two chat questions we have. Simnikiwe, is that your old hand?
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me another opportunity. The last one is just a general one to do with the crisis with the infrastructure. So the situation you're describing, are we in a situation where no amount of money can prevent the fact that we need to load shed for a period of an extended period of time? Or is there an amount of money that can make it so that we don't have to be in this crisis we're in terms of energy generation?
Thank you, Simpiwe. Colleagues, that would be the last voice question. Do you want to address that, please, Jan? Simpiwe, please lower your hand. Jan, please answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Sigunati. I don't believe throwing money without proper planning is a way to go. I don't believe so. However, the point of having money available when you are embarking on the reliability maintenance that we are doing, and I would like to just stand back and just stand still here at reliability maintenance. Reliability maintenance is not a once-off, that you're going to do it for the next 2 years and then everything is done. So then you don't have to do it again. So reliability maintenance is like your car. And for as long as you have that car, you need to do the maintenance that is prescribed by the manufacturer of that vehicle. Now, in order for us to do proper planning, to take a unit out, we need about 24 months to plan it properly. So that means you will know exactly when you're going to take it off, you know exactly what you're going to do, you know who's going to do it, you know what spares you need, and all those resources that is required. Now that means, and it comes back to the point that you've made, if you need money available to execute, to plan, and then obviously to execute ultimately that outage, that maintenance. We are having some challenges, significant financial challenges, and our reliability program is not moving and progressing the way we would like to see it because of also the issue of financial challenges. So the making available of funds to plan it properly and to order your spares, to enter into agreements, whatever the case may be, is not always progressing the way that we would like to see it. So what I would like to caution to say, we can just throw money and the problem will go away. I don't believe so. If you are planning it properly and you know exactly what you need in terms of finances, yes, I believe that is the way to go. Thanks, Sikunati.
Jan, thank you for the question. Colleagues, that was the last voice question. I have 3 questions to read, and we will close this briefing. Here is a commitment I wish to make to you, colleagues in the media, and to members of the public in South Africa. We will keep the country updated at all times, whether about the situation, and we will again next week, after paying a visit to the power stations, request the pleasure of your company again in an interview. And yes, of course, we will take you to some of the power stations, including next week. The question is from Promit Makiji from Reuters News. Promit, please do pardon me if I got your name wrong. I sincerely apologize. There are complaints from several areas in Gauteng that many areas and localities are facing power outage since this morning. Are these outages linked to load shedding or load reduction, and are these being attended to? The next question comes from Davi Bonzaye from Media 24. How many of the open cycle gas turbines need to be running if we are on an unplanned breakdown of 13,000 megawatt? The second last question comes from Matthew Savidius of Times Live. There was a report this week that Eskom was on the verge of collapse. He says that in quotation marks, based on an expert comment made during a radio interview. What is Eskom's response to this? And how safe is the system? Then there is the last question from Joe Stolp again. Load reduction notices are issued at 3 p.m. for that night and 10 p.m. for the next morning. How often is this alleged evaluation of demand versus revenue reviewed? And how do you know on which mornings or evening of every 48 hours substations in the VAL are likely to blow up? Could we have that prediction schedule, please? There is one last question. There's 2. Peter Atat Montalto. If you will get back to that one, please, let's just not lose track. Can I ask Philip to answer the question about how many OCGTs need to be run at 13,000 megawatts unplanned breakdown? Another thing, colleagues, we had really focused this presentation on the generation side of the Eskom business. That is why you do not see my colleagues here, Monde, who is the head of distribution, and who directly should be answering on the question about Gauteng, those outages there, including the city of Johannesburg. But I will ask Philip at this point to respond to the question on breakdowns and the use of OCGTs. Thank you, Philip.
So at this stage, we are not using any OCGTs. So we are coping, we are able to meet the demand. Obviously, the fact that we are load shedding, it also is helpful. You will normally use your OCGTs. These are really reserves that you would use as backup, and you would use them during the peaks, which are higher than your normal demand. So at this stage, we are not making use of any OCGTs. We are coping with the demand. We are hoping to go through evening peak today. Obviously, it is reduced from yesterday, but we are hoping to go through evening peak without utilizing OCGTs as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Philip. Jan, I am going to request you again, please, to talk to the complaints of outages in Gauteng. I'm going to also request you to respond to the question, Matthew's question, about how close is Eskom to total collapse, based on an interview on Radio 702 this morning. And thereafter, we will take Peter Atat Montato's questions and close. We'll allow Andre to take the last comment. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Sigunati. What I would suggest we do Sigunati, and with the colleagues, and specifically those of you that asked the question, I do not have the answers, and for me to sit here and think up an answer to a question is not showing the respect that you deserve. What I would suggest we do, Sigunati, we take the questions on the load reduction and specifically the outages, because I'm not aware of outages today. Maybe because I haven't been focusing on that part of the business. So that we take all these questions, we give it to our distribution colleagues, and that we respond formally in writing to the questions that been asked. So that's one. The question on total collapse. No. Let me. Sometimes I sit back and I listen to these comments and statements being made, and it's usually being made by people that is not part of the organization and not part of the team. And so, although I do respect some of these comments made, I do not always understand and I do not agree with it. Now, we have a system operator. Now, the system operator, one of its prime functions is to ensure the integrity of our networks, our grid at all times, is to make sure that we do not have a total collapse. And this is why when I said earlier, when the demand is higher than what is available, that means we need to make a decision to protect the integrity of the system, not to have a brown or a blackout. So this is why we then implement load shedding. And I can also assure you, colleagues, that when we implement load shedding and when we have load shedding, we interact daily or throughout the day on a sort of a 2-3 hourly basis and look at the system. How's it going? And that we interact then with our system operator, which is extremely competent. And that I can say without a shadow of a doubt. What we are also doing, so we are protecting the integrity. So that means if it's stage 6 or stage 8, that is what we will do to make sure there is no blackout. What we are also doing is we are making sure then if for whatever reason, if all the blocks line up and we should, and God forbid, come to a situation that there is a blackout, is how to start the system up again when we have a situation like that. So I personally chairing this meeting every 3 weeks, where we're looking at, black start facilities. What is the condition of that? Is it maintained? What else do we need to do? So I trust that I've answered the question adequately, that we are not even close to a blackout, because our system operator will make the decisions, or will elevate the decisions that need to be made to ourselves well in advance to make sure that we do not have a disaster on our hands in terms of total blackout or brownout for whatever reason. Thank you, Sahamati.
Jan, thank you for the question. The question, please, you said we will respond to the people on the distribution areas in Gauteng where there are issues. Colleagues, I am now reading the last set of questions, and those come from Peter Atat Montalto. If you will indulge me, he says, the issue of liquidity for maintenance has come up again from Jan and wasn't fully explained on Monday at the State of the System briefing. What does this mean and what is being done about it? How much extra liquidity do you need to be sitting with, ideally? Mariam, I'm taking your question, and then there's Chris Yelland, and the question is, she's just thinking, let me read it. Thank you very much for this very transparent and open briefing. That's Mariam Issa. Chris says, can we have a little more notice of these meetings? Colleagues, lastly, I wish again to apologize on that point for the late notice. We thought sending that statement, power alert every day, does not necessarily give you all the access and the transparency that you so deserve. And we apologize again for the short notice. Please, can we answer Peter Atal Montoto's question. Let me repeat it. The issue of liquidity for maintenance has come up again from Jan and wasn't fully explained at the state of the system. What does this mean and what is being done about it? How much extra liquidity do you need to be sitting with ideally? Jan, once you have answered that question, we will close the meeting by allowing Andre to give us his closing remarks. Again, colleagues, I wish to add, we will give you a regular update on the system and on any significant developments. Thank you. Over to you, Jan, and then Andre.
Thank you, Sigunati. Peter, typically we need about 8 to 11 billion, actually more close to 11 billion per annum, the generation colleagues to do proper maintenance and adequate maintenance on an ongoing basis. As I said earlier, we need at least 24 months to plan it adequately and effectively. This financial year, we have only been given and allowed 3 billion. And only as recent as a few weeks, months ago, we have been provided and allowed an additional 3 billion, which is still short of what we really need. And also, the time that it has been provided is making it extremely difficult to still execute it within this financial year. So, to answer your question, we need about 11 billion per annum to do the maintenance. However, it needs to be released well in advance in order to have effective maintenance. Thank you.
Andre, please give us your closing remarks.
Thanks very much, Sigunati, and thanks for all the questions. Peter, if I can just add on that. So our liquidity is a function of, first of all, cash raised through loans, and as our loans matured and as they are rolled over, obviously that has an impact on cash coming in. Secondly, revenue, and again, this is a function of how well we are able to collect revenue from our 6.7 million customers. And then on the outflow side, as Jan has indicated, how much cash is being spent on our capex, on working capital, on primary energy, and all of our other costs. So on a daily basis, we are managing our cash balances such that obviously we never run out of cash. But that does mean that in some instances, we have to throttle back on the unfettered release of cash for some of our key maintenance activities if there are timing differences with, for example, the release of funds from loans, or if we receive our equity injections from Treasury sooner or later than planned originally. Exchange rates play a role as well. International movements of interest rates play a role. So all of these factors come into play, and that has an impact on our ability to release cash as the operations would have liked it. And fundamentally, again, it comes back to cost-reflective tariffs, if you will indulge me to climb on that particular hobby horse. So all in all, colleagues, thank you very much for this meeting. I want to thank Jan and Philip for all of the hard work that they've put in over the past couple of weeks. Not that they generally don't work exceptionally hard. We look forward to maintaining regular contact with interested parties, particularly the media. We want to establish a rhythm before we implement load shedding, that if there is a risk of a constraint to the system, we want to try and engage with you prior to load shedding being implemented, again, to explain exactly what the constraints are on the system, so that there's an appreciation for the challenges that we face. And then while load shedding continues, we will also use a platform like this to update you on a daily basis. We believe that we may have not communicated properly and adequately, and we want to rectify that by being more transparent and more proactive. So you can, Chris, pencil in 4 o'clock in the afternoon as the likely time for when these briefings will take place. With that, colleagues, I want to thank you for your attendance and your continued understanding. We understand that we are challenging South Africa, but we, with gratitude, note the recent announcement by the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy of the preferred bidders for bid window 5. The numbers that have come out of that bid round are very attractive, and I think it proves how competitive the technology has become over the last number of years, and that is certainly encouraging for us as we move forward to leverage this new technology to enable us to add new capacity to the grid. So we look forward to the rapid addition of that new capacity onto our network. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very pleasant weekend.
Thank you, Andre. Colleagues, thank you. Some of you have only just joined the meeting. As soon as I'm able to share a link of the recording, which does not require only Eskom people to listen to, I will distribute it to the whole group. We apologize again for the short notice. We will send the questions on distribution in Gauteng, in the responses to those individuals who have asked. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
All right, so that is that Eskom briefing then, and I suppose the big story to come out of that, aside from the technical issues that were referred to there by Eskom leadership, is the fact that load shedding will be ending then tonight at 8 p.m. Well, that's it from me, Flo Dwaba, and the rest of the team here at SHA. Thanks very much for being with us this afternoon. We take you right back to Johannesburg, where the team Full View will take care of you from now. Cheerio and have a great